Right. I see. So I just went live.
Everywhere. Poor patrons.
Yeah, it's a Patreon show, but hey.
Poor patrons ain't getting any benefits.
Right. There he is. What's up, my man?
How's it going?
What's up?
All right, man. In the hotel, huh?
Yeah, just hanging out in a small town a little bit south of Rogers, Arkansas right now. I have a plant out here that I have to be at like 7 in the morning. I didn't want to make a 5-hour drive at 2 o'clock this morning, so.
Yeah. So in a hotel, not doing shit. Sounds about right.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet.
Oh, man.
All right, man. So just basic stuff. We meander in and out of the loose agenda and see where it takes us.
Yeah, sounds good. I can talk about rookies forever. So whatever you guys want to talk about, we're good to go.
Okay, that's all we need to get. Let's go. Welcome to the Dynasty Hot Sauce Podcast. I'm Larry Moger. You can find me on social media everywhere. No. Follow the show at Dynasty Hot Sauce on Twitter and X and Blue Sky and Instagram and all that good stuff. Man, look who I'm joined with today. Looks like he robbed an Italian restaurant. He stole the tablecloth right off the table. He's laying on the couch. Ooh, look at this guy. He's back. Run DFF. Justin Rogers. What's up, my man?
Man, it's a sad time around here, brother. Hunting season ended yesterday.
Oh, my God.
I got to go and pull some sets out of the woods and settle in for a long year ahead of me.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, until turkey season starts in about a month.
So did you? So was the freezer packed?
I got one more that's in a cooler right now. I got to process. I shot her on Thursday or Friday? I shot her on Friday. So,
man,
yep.
I'm looking at you. I feel like someone's gonna bring you a bowl of spaghetti or something right now.
It's a lovely tablecloth blanket, isn't it?
Yes, sir, baby.
I had to steal it from my dog. She was laying on top of it. I was like, no, I need a little blankie tonight. It's chilly out here.
So we got the Super Bowl coming up this weekend, man. But it's already rookie season.
I mean, I'm really I'm just not into the Super Bowl. It's like the matchup that no one wanted.
Yeah,
we were offered Bills and Commanders, and instead we got Chiefs and Eagles.
Yes,
disappointing time. So yeah, I am all in on the rookies right now. I'm like, all right, I'll watch the Super Bowl this Sunday, and then officially, you know what I'm looking forward to is rolling over leagues. That's what I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, baby. Steadying in the chat.
Rizard in the chat.
Rizard. Hey, so let's get going a little bit here. So we mentioned the rookies, and I got a guy who I'm in the Dynasty Warzone group me chat. There, that one's lit all the time. Follow that show. But Dallas Hyder, right? Did I say that right? At Salad Galore. Did I pronounce that right?
Correct on both. Yeah, German last name, and Salad is Dallas spelled backwards with a double L. So
nice. Look at this. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I'm excited to talk some rookies. It's my thing. So always fun to hop on different shows when I get a chance to.
Yeah.
I have referenced you on the show before. We would just be talking about something, and then like something would click in my head. I'm like, oh wait, I think Dallas Hyder made wrote some brief narrative on the Warzone chat, and I'm like, yeah, you know your stuff when it comes to rookies and Devi guys and stuff.
Yeah, I spend a lot of my time on college guys, and I try to do my best specifically for the Patreon on that side of things for the DWZ to pump out as much knowledge as possible during the season. I was doing a prospect premonition for the last season and a half, basically, for prospects that were going to hit, and basically just giving advice on Devi, rookies coming in, second-year guys. It's kind of where I spend my time because at the end of the day, you can find someone's ranks that you like for the vets and just kind of stick with that for redraft purposes. But rookies are a little bit more finicky. So,
wow. How'd you get started in all this? Like how'd your boat get floated?
So I've been doing Dynasty specifically. This will be my 15th year, and one that I started with some buddies back in late high school going into college. And so I've been doing Dynasty for a good chunk of time, specifically focused on tight ends, quarterbacks. Then I was doing a little podcast on my own with one of my other buddies we have a 24-man big league of duplicates that we play in. So we would do a weekly podcast of updates between the matchups, just how everyone kind of starts in the podcasting game on this kind of thing. And then ended up asking Memphis a question one time. We ended up shooting the shit for 30 minutes. And then he asked me to come on as a guest spot, liked what I did. And then next thing you know, I had a rookie show that has been going on for like almost 4 years at this point. So
what's that called?
It's the Dynasty Warzone's Rookie Rundown.
Right.
Yep.
Rookie Rundown, baby. Good stuff, man. So, I mean,
there is no one alive that gets rookie fever bigger than Larry at some point in the off season.
Oh,
so
you gotta say that about everybody though. At some point,
it might temper itself.
Blossom a little earlier than most.
It might temper itself at some point, but Larry gets really fired up. He'll trade everyone away for a first round pick at some point.
Hey,
that's funny because I'm the complete opposite. I'm the guy that talks about rookies constantly, but I'm always preaching caution, being like, "Yeah, don't make that trade right now."
I know. Oh man, I'm looking at teams and I'm looking at the picks they have, and I'm just thinking, how can I get this like 106 or something like that? So I mean, you know where things kind of are at. For the most part, like where does this first round like rookie draft, say Superflex, tight end premium, how's that looking this year compared to past years? Because I feel like there's like a lot less hype around this year than maybe in past years.
Yeah, I would say the upper echelon tier of talent isn't really there compared to even last year. Like last year, we had some wide receiver studs that came out that immediately flashed fire in the pan. I don't even know that the wide receiver one for most people, Ted McMillan in this year's class, could be sniffing around that. I think I would have him somewhere in the 5 to 6 range last year behind those top 3 to 4 guys in the class. He's going to be good, I think. I think you're hoping that his ceiling is somewhere in the Drake London range, but realistically banking on him or trading heavy assets to acquire someone that you're hoping to be someone like Drake London probably isn't your best move. So that's the thing is if you're looking to retool at most of the positions on your dynasty draft, you have a lot of picks in the first, the second. This is how you can add a lot of that depth that helps you as a contender. But if you're looking for the big splashy names outside of Genty, I don't know that you're going to be able to nail it down, and absolutely hit on multiple of these guys in the first or the second.
Larry, you brought this guy on just to shit on our rookie drafts this year? Come on, what are we looking at? Like, I've heard really good things about the tight ends. How are we feeling about the tight ends this year? I know we've got – go ahead.
Tight ends and running backs are the two positions in this year's draft that everyone's going to be talking about. Specifically tight ends, this group, I love it. I have right now just grades, kind of how I do it based off my little platform. I have 7 guys that I think realistically should be either day 1 or day 2 in the actual NFL draft, which translates to quite a few that we'll be very interested in. I think last year we had 4. Year before it was 4 as well. So if we're getting close to double that, it would be pretty big for us. Specifically, my top 4 guys have a chance to usurp some of the older names that we've been forced to run out year after year. The Hunter Henrys, which no one likes sticking in their weekly lineup, even though he consistently gets you 9 points. The Hayden Hurst, who's just refusing to die. Like those type of guys shouldn't really be in rotation if a large portion of the guys that I think are going to hit actually do hit at the tight end position.
Is there, I mean, I know we have like this consensus at the top of the tight end group. What are can you kind of run through those 7 guys?
Yeah. I will not be consensus, just so you're aware. I am specifically tight end and quarterback. I'm always very contrarian because I don't do projections. My whole basis of how I do my rookie ranks is based off of what I see and what the analytics are telling me from college. So if a guy only has 300 receiving yards at the tight end position and I've never seen him used as a move tight end, I don't care if he runs really good at the combine. That's how you end up with a Theo Johnson who really doesn't end up doing anything his rookie year. And everyone that invested in him at the tail end of the second round going into the third is considering just kind of either, if they didn't already drop him, potentially dropping him for a roster spot this coming draft. So you have to kind of watch out for that type of thing. But I have a group of 4 at the top right now for differing reasons. Top one on everyone's consensus board right now is Tyler Warren out of Penn State. Right. He is your gadget guy. If you are hoping to hit your shot at the next Taysom Hill, he's realistically who you're hoping he's going to turn into. He's going to be used in a fullback role, a running back role, a receiving role, a blocking role, pretty much anything you want to. He's not the craziest athlete in the world, but he's a big dude and he's not afraid to really stick his nose into stuff. Coming across the middle on the outside, he does have a lot of schemed up touches is what I'd say. So if he doesn't go to the right type of offense, the right offensive coordinator, I'd be a little bit wary of him, but I think he's the number 1 for a lot of people. Number 2 on my board is not, I have yet to see anyone else have him at number 2 for me, but I cannot stop falling in love with Rondé Gadsden, the second former. His dad was a former wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins back in the day. You can see he has been trained by a wide receiver when he is out there. And that dude is every part of 6'5". He went into the Senior Bowl this year. He came in. Everyone was concerned about his weight because he doesn't look like he's carrying a lot of weight. Weighed in at 243. Huge for his stock, because if he had come in the 230s, you're looking at that tweener role who never succeeds or anything like that. Ran smooth, was getting a ton of separation the entire time that he was there as well. I love everything I see on tape. He missed 4 games this year due to injury, and he still put up 800 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns at the position with just under 70 receptions. If he had been healthy all season, realistically, he's in the same ballpark as a Tyler Warren this year. Huge guy. And again, he's out of Syracuse for those that don't know. He was basically their entire offense outside of Meeks and why am I blanking on the running back's name? I'll think of it later on in the show. It's not important. This isn't an RB show, right? Number 3 for me, Eli Arroyo out of Miami. If you're looking for a wide receiver, Chase Claypool-esque type of player, that's what my comp is for Eli. He is a one hit, one wonder, 1 year, one wonder, however you want to phrase it, at the tight end position only due to injuries. He had an ACL tear and an MCL tear very early on in the 2022 season, missed all of the 2022 season, came back in 2023, really slow to go on, and he was the favorite target. If it wasn't going to Xavier Restrepo for Cam Ward at Miami, it was going to Arroyo. So he's a guy that can come in day one and be just a true move tight end. If you're looking for the next Evan Ingram, hopefully, that's realistically where you're going to. And then the consensus number 2, who I technically have at 4 right now, is Colston Loveland out of Michigan. He can do pretty much everything that you want him to do. He's not going to be the best athlete in the world, but for me, I think he's definitely going to fall pretty squarely into that like Pat Freiermuth mold, the Dalton Schultz role. Like he'll do everything you need him to do as a tight end. It's just whether or not that's going to really hit the ceiling or not is the only question mark.
That's a little disconcerting.
Well, I think what you're saying about he'll do everything is good because being on the field is important, and he can do the things that will keep a tight end on the field. So there's that. There's been a lot of buzz about Harold Fanning. How do you feel about him? I mean,
correct. Yeah. So Fanning is just outside of that. He's in the second tier for me, and it's just due to the fact that all of his athleticism that people keep talking about is very linear. It's very straight line. He doesn't have wiggle to his game, anything like that. So he can be a seam splitter. But the way I see him being a seam splitter is a guy who came out with an extremely similar profile to him when it came to athletically, what you see on the field. He just didn't have the counting stats. I see him as like an OJ Howard. So he has the pass blocking chops to do it. And yes, he was the entire offense for Bowling Green. But for me, when I see it, I just can't really project that type of role at the next level. Like if he goes to a Shanahan scheme which is the arbitrary trope phrase that everyone says for every prospect to succeed because they know what to do with their players, I'm totally in. But I'm not confident that 80% of the people know how to use their tight ends. Like everyone was hyping up Jelani Woods when he went to the Colts 2 years ago because of this athletic freak coming out. They still don't know how to use him. So it's just one of those things where, yeah, it's cool on paper. And yes, he had some stats in college. I don't like what I see on the tape, which is not really characteristic of what you would say for someone who put up those counting stats that he did.
Hey, was Jonnu Smith going berserk this year a surprise to you, or was that not shocking?
I think he just found someone just like Arthur Smith who is willing to give him the ball in the way that he needs to be used. I think there was a weird usurping of the targets that probably shouldn't have happened with Tyreek and him. And I don't know what was happening with the usage in Waddle. That whole offense was a little bit weird, but they were having a ton of issues running the ball. They had to put in a lot of heavy personnel, which took the 3 wide receiver sets and even the 2 wide receiver sets off the field a lot of the times, forcing Smythe and Jonnu Smith on the field a ton. And so when you have those two, only one of them is going to be blocking because you got to have at least 2 routes in a concept when you're going down. And so there was a lot of Jonnu slip outs for those long runs, which is really all that we ever saw his production be in other places. He just was actually getting the funneled targets as the premier option in concepts, which hasn't happened outside of Arthur Smith.
All right. So here we go. How do you not have Fannin in your top 4?
Mm-hmm. Like I said, he's 5. He's just outside. But
so who's in the top 4 in Jamie's mind that shouldn't be? Who do you think he's talking about?
Probably Gadsden, if I had to guess, just because he's not the big media name for people right now. A lot of people didn't watch Syracuse, but I tell you guys, like anyone who's not familiar, like Jamie, you're really in on Fannin. Watch Fannin and then go and watch Gadsden and tell me which one looks better when they're playing.
Yeah. So he's also predicting Warren to the Broncos. So the Broncos looks like they're folks. I mean, they're talking about Indy going for a tight end. I guess the Broncos, the Jets need a tight end, really. So there's a lot of tight end hunters in the draft this year. So we got another one here. Are you trading out of first-round picks in non-Devy leagues?
I don't know that I'm trading out of the first. I'm always down to accumulate value. My hard tiers when it comes to 1 through 12 in the first round don't happen until the draft, basically, for me. So I give you firm tiers from prospect grades, but when it comes to my drafts, I don't draft before the NFL draft in any of my dynasty leagues, so I don't force myself to think about that hypothetical. If my 3rd prospect in a tier at a position goes in the 6th round, he's no longer my 3rd positional player, So it's just hard for me to give that hard out. I wouldn't be trading out right now because the star-studded talent isn't there, but the running back position alone will probably fill half of the first round based off of landing spots and the need for running backs across the league. So
I have one league where we draft before the draft, and I have 5 first-round picks this year.
Yeah.
5 or 6, I don't know. It was a league. It's very similar to our listener league that's set up to where you can draft future firsts in the rookie draft.
Mm-hmm.
So I went heavy future firsts for this year just because someone had already completely dominated the 2024 draft.
Yeah.
And now I've found that you have to be a little bit more conservative with your picks, trying to listen to the tea leaves, read the tea leaves there, and listen to what people are saying, at least what teams are saying. And, I think the combine matters more in that respect because you don't get any other information from the draft. So I don't know. I'm with you, though. I wouldn't be trading out of first-round picks right now. I think there's enough talent that we're not stressing over the first round as far as, even getting into the 110, 112.
Yeah.
Because we've got tight ends and running backs that are going to be able to carry this class a little bit.
Now, you just mentioned the Dynasty Hot Sauce Listener League.
I did.
Now, this is a 3-copy, 14-team Superflex tight end premium, heavy tight end, because we love the tight ends on the Hot Sauce Pod. You know it. We have a couple of openings, a couple of orphans, right?
Are we have,
We have 3 right now. I got to go back and check. Yeah.
nice. So this is exciting. Bringing some new blood. So yeah, if you are interested, shoot us so a message of some kind.
Yeah. Hit us up. Let us know that you want to be in on the league. And there will be a dispersal, so you won't just be taken up. See, Jamie's in. We just got to drag him in there.
There you go.
We just got to. You won't be stuck with whatever is on the roster. You'll be able to draft your own team. There'll be picks involved there.
I mean, this is obviously there will be a dispersal.
Yes,
team.
Right.
So that's exciting, and there's a lot of picks. There's picks flying all over the place. It's a great league. A lot of trades going on. So yeah, if you want to get in on the deal, get in on the deal.
Yeah, I haven't looked to see
Alex,
how
you're
many
welcome
trades.
to join the league as well. It's
Yeah.
good stuff.
I haven't looked to see how many trades we had this year, but in 2023, that season, from rollover to rollover, we had something like 185 trades or something like that.
Nice.
A lot of trades.
Yeah, it's a lot of trades, a lot of action. When
Fun
the action
league.
gets rolling, it rolls hard too.
So,
And that's
some would
not-
say too many. That's 10 trades per person on average in that league.
Come on now, that's not too many.
Now hold on a second.
There's 42 teams in there, so you know.
So Dallas, Dallas is in Arkansas right now. Is that correct?
Correct.
How
I
did-
don't live here, just on a work call right now this week down here.
So where do you plant your flag?
I'm actually in Kansas City. So you guys didn't care about the Super Bowl, but everyone I'm around does.
Now, are you a Bears fan? Or are you a Chiefs fan?
I'm a Bears fan, unfortunately.
Okay,
I still unfortunately have to say that I hate saying that in public right now, but
that's okay.
hopefully it changes.
Look. I'm a Falcons fan. Larry's obviously a Jets fan. There's no company like misery that we can keep.
Justin's in Mississippi. I'm in New Jersey.
Nice.
So you're in Arkansas. So speaking of Arkansas, Britt Flynn's in the league. She lives in Arkansas.
Nice.
Arkansas, right? What Arkansas?
Arkansas.
Yes. Yeah, I'm
You
going to be in
really want to
the
piss her
lovely city of Paris in like 12 hours.
Really want to piss her off. Call it
Yes.
Arkansas.
Yes,
But it
Arkansas.
is an Arkansan. As in, like if you're saying someone lives there, they're an Arkansan, but don't say Arkansas.
Mhm.
Really,
Arkansas. All right. Well,
And
we
then
got some.
last little nugget for Jamie. So Jamie, you're looking for your 7th. Check out Brant Keefe out of Utah. That's my advice for you for your number 7 at tight end.
You have to go way down on most people's list to find him.
Yeah, it's because he's an older prospect. The Utah schools always like to put some older prospects into the bloodline there. But yeah, he's a fun watch.
Yeah. So if you want to play with me and Justin and Britt Flynn and who else is there? Rocky Petrella's in this league. Who else we got here? Angry Sports Couple. Angry Sports Couple.
Bill, super duper flex.
Yeah, we got some nice we got a nice diverse group of guys here. That Jerry O'Shea, out in Ireland.
There's a pile of people in there.
Yeah.
Manolo, are we going international now? Because we got Manolo in there too.
Manolo, yeah, he's in Denmark. We got Jerry in Ireland, so we have an international.
And Drew is in Korea now.
Oh,
He moved last year. The Korean American who's in Korea now.
so yeah, so there you go. The listener league. So
Yeah,
the
hit us
tight
up
end-
if you want to get in.
Yeah, hit us up. So where do you want to go now, man? I mean, I shared the loose agenda. There's some juicy nuggets.
Do you guys have any questions specifically on any tight ends that you're curious about? Do we want to wrap up the tight end position?
yeah,
I can give you some comps that I have. It's really up to you.
How far fetched?
I'm a little curious about Loveland because he is tight end 2 on most people's rankings, but he doesn't have the athletic profile that some of these other guys do. Is he versatile enough in his route running to be successful in the NFL?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, he's a zone eater. So that's why, like, the comp that I had brought up with him was a Pat Fryermuth. He can destroy you underneath as a tight end, which is what he was asked to do. Yeah. It's what he was asked to do as Harbaugh's tight end. When the regime changed this year, he dealt with a little bit of injuries. The quarterback play drastically declined. The whole offense drastically declined. It just was a different team. So you saw that reduction. If you can find someone, even this year, say what you will about that offense in Pittsburgh, Freiermuth was real damn productive during the first 10 weeks of the season before the whole car basically ran off the road. So that's the type of system that you're hoping him to get into. If he can be a focal point in an offense, maybe one that doesn't have a lot of wide receiver options, he can really be that safety blanket for a team. So I mean, as of right now, if you were to slide him in on New England for Drake May to be that underneath piece, he could do exactly what Hunter Henry's doing in that offense.
Did you follow the Senior Bowl this week?
Yeah.
And keep up with all that?
Yep.
That's down close to my neck of the woods. Were there any players that stood out there? Just moving in general, not necessarily just tight ends. Because Jamie does mention Mason Taylor. He was listening to some stuff that said that he heard he stood out at the Senior Bowl. Is there any players, maybe it's Mason Taylor or somebody else that stood out and we want to talk about?
So Mason Taylor is another son of a former NFL player there, different position. I believe he was offensive lineman. But with Mason Taylor, he was never really asked to do anything. So he's the type of player that I can't really commit any draft stock to unless the NFL does. He's a big projection at the next level. I think he's going to be more of your blocker than anything. He was really good at his inline work this week at the Senior Bowl. So I know what he's talking about with people talking to him about him at the Senior Bowl. I would say guys that did a good job this week. I think Harold Fannin did an average job. I would say, like, if Jamie's really into Fannin, he wasn't being talked about at all. He didn't really have a good week. He didn't really stand out, anything like that. Mm-hmm. Gadsden looked really good. Arroyo looked really good. There weren't really any of the smaller school guys that were really there. At the Shrine Bowl, one of my guys is Eli Stowers out of Vanderbilt. He's a really fun prospect, former quarterback out of Texas Tech. He's got a pretty unique build. Other than that, none of the really tight ends stood out. The thing with the Senior Bowl is it's really just turned into the wide receivers. It's really all you care about. Ultimately, anything else, it's really hard to tell. Like, you can say, like, oh, the tight end's a good route runner or something like that, but they have pads on for like 2 days out of the entire week. They're doing occasional one-on-one drills, which you'll never be in a true one-on-one ISO situation on any field you play on. So outside of watching wide receivers do certain physical aspects, coming back to the ball, that type of thing, it doesn't really teach you that much. And then the games, I don't really put that much stock into it for the quarterbacks because they're learning in an offense in a week. It may be a dumbed down one, but they have no idea what the timing is for these wide receivers unless they went to the same school. If you can build chemistry, awesome. But like, I'm not expecting these guys to go out and light the world on fire. So if someone is able to get consistent cohesion with multiple wide receivers at the quarterback position, that's when I start paying attention. This week, I think Jackson Dart did that better than anyone else. He was the most consistent out of everyone, according to reports. So that's something to look forward to. A lot of the other quarterbacks really didn't get all that involved. Dylan Gabriel's a leader. Milroe looked just as bad throwing the ball as he usually does underneath. So that's concerning. I do not have him high, if anyone's curious. He is quarterback 6 for me in this class. He's Malik Willis 2.0. Really fun athlete, can do really cool things with a deep ball, but I would not trust him to be accurate. He would need the 2 to 3 years that Willis got to get to the level that I think he's at right now. But if I had to go, my top 2 guys that I saw on the field, RJ Harvey, I think, is still being slept on really hard at the running back position out of UCF. I think he's going to be really successful at the NFL level. My comp right now, just play style wise, the pop that he kind of gives you at that size, if you're looking for like a Tyrone Tracy aspect to one hit wonder, that's your kind of guy in RJ Harvey.
What was his name? RJ Harvey?
Yeah, RJ Harvey out of UCF. But he's been so productive for that team over the last 3 years. Like, I think he's averaged like 1,300 yards over the last 3 years on the ground. This year, I think he was closer to 1,600. They just ran the ball like crazy with him. And if you can do that consistently on a team where they know that you're running the ball with one specific guy and he still does it, even against the big dogs, it's a good sign. Other than him at the wide receiver position, I am already out of character compared to most people. I've had Jaden Higgins as my wide receiver 3 out of Iowa State for the entirety of this year, basically. He did nothing but confirm that for me, basically. He weighed in and clocked in exactly where I thought he was going to. He's every part of 6'4.5", and he's right at 220, and he is so smooth. It's the first big guy. Everyone loves to comp people to take T. Higgins every year. They're like, oh, is this going to be your next T. Higgins? Is that the ceiling? Is T. Higgins? This is the first guy at this size I've seen move as smooth as Higgins does for separation purposes. And he has the second strongest hands in this year's class outside of Jack Besh at TCU.
Okay. So
too far down a lot of boards here. I mean, he's definitely in the conversation in that second, third tier. Jaden Higgins is so good to hear that there's a little bit of buzz on him.
So just to put a bow on this tight end thing, realistically, how many tight ends are we drafting in the rookie draft, in like a 3-round rookie draft? How many tight ends are coming off the board, do you think?
Tight end premium?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. 1.75, 2-point tight end.
Probably 5.
5 tight ends.
Yep.
Oh, that's juicy. Love that one.
Yeah, because like regardless of what I say, someone's taken Fannin in 3 rounds. Like as long as he gets drafted before the 7th round, someone has taken him. I probably wouldn't, and so I feel very firm with the other 4.
So you're thinking like maybe 2 tight ends get taken in the first round of the NFL draft, and then 3 in the second round, pretty much.
Yeah, 2nd or 3rd round, something like that. So I would see Tyler Warren and Loveland. Almost locks to go in the first round at this point based off of pedigree. I would very much expect Gadsden, Arroyo, and Fannin in some order to be the next 3 to come off in that round 2 and round 3.
Nice. Okay, so we're taking 5 tight ends in a 3-round rookie draft. I love that. Love it.
That is sexy.
You know, that means I'll be reaching for tight ends.
Larry will be overdrafting tight ends.
Know it, man. Oh,
I mean, hey, you'd rather have them on there if they're going to pop off. That's all I'm saying.
I'm in a league. I'm in a Devi depleted league where the tight end, it's a 2 tight end start 1.75.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I could use, you can't have enough inventory in a format like that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the perfect example for this is I was taking K. Dotton everywhere in the 4th round of my rookie drafts when he was coming out. Do you know how valuable K. Dotton is compared to what my investment is?
Right. Yeah.
It's laughable how crazy
park
that
him
is.
on your bench though for a bit for a time.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like that's what taxi squad positions are for. Like I just in all of my leagues, it's just tight ends. It doesn't matter anything else. It's just tight ends on that for me. Because if those hit, you can trade them for so much more than what you invested in. Just even if you draft the number 1 guy every year, like if you drafted Laporta last year and moved him after the first year, and then you drafted Bowers and you move him after this year, your return on investment is so insane that you can start building out your team just from recycling and taking what's a perceived value step down at the tight end position. That's why I pay so much attention to it as opposed to wide receiver and stuff like that.
All right. Well, Jamie's got a bunch of questions. Jamie Perogue. So let's just bang these out real quick, and then we'll get into the QBs. So, what do you think about this Woody Marks guy as a late rounder?
I think he doesn't know what he's doing in the same capacity as Marshawn Lloyd. But I actually just put out a comp thing regarding him today. He reminds me of TJ Yeldon. And I remembered, I was trying to remember why when I was watching him. I was like, it's infuriating watching him because you can see the physical tools, but he just won't do what he's supposed to do.
Jacksonville Jaguar, so frustrating.
Right? Yeah, that's where Yeldon. Yeah, everyone wanted Yeldon to be something. Man, I tell you what, that dude could run into the back of an offensive line
like a Jeff Wilson type of guy, right?
Yeah, it was just infuriating. But that's what I think of Woody. Fun fact, actually was on a plane with Woody Marks when he was on his way down to the Senior Bowl.
So, how about that one?
Yeah, good times.
How about this? Thoughts on Jalen Noel? Can he be like
Noel? He's the complement at Iowa State with Jaden Higgins. He is interesting. He's been really rising up boards. He's extremely physical as a wide receiver. When you watch him, he reminded me a lot of Parker Washington at Penn State when he was coming out.
Now, who's this guy play for? Jaden Noel?
He's Iowa State. He's the
yeah.
complement that plays slot to Jaden Higgins, also at Iowa State.
Gotcha.
But he reminds me a lot of Parker Washington at Penn State when he was coming out. Now he's with the Jags. I think that 4th to 5th round is where I would expect him to go. Now, he could be a riser because of the Senior Bowl, but also Parker Washington did very well at the Senior Bowl and still went in the 5th with a lot more production on tape than what Noel has. So he's very physical. He's going to do pretty much everything you want him to do underneath. But I think if you're looking for that power slot, which everyone is trying to idolize, that's kind of what you're looking at. The thing is, he's not big. He's came in at under 5'10". He's like 5'10", 195 pounds is basically what he came in at. So if you're going to play that type of physical bully ball, you have to be a little bit of a better separator than what he is. And I don't think he quite has the speed aspect that Reed has. I do like him. He's definitely going to go in that 2nd to 3rd round in rookie drafts. It's just I like a couple more wide receivers better than him in this class.
All right, and lastly, last but not least, do you think Arian Smith can break the 40-time record? He's expecting a 420 40.
Look, can I chime in as the resident Georgia fan here?
And the run BFF.
And the runner, yeah, exactly. He's straight line fast, but he's not 4.20 fast.
No, exactly.
I don't think he touches that record.
No, he doesn't look like the fastest. There's times where Isaiah Bond looks faster than him, and I know Isaiah Bond does not run a 4.2 flat. Like it's kind of hard to judge with guys like that. He is fun and he pulls away from people. He'll be a fun deep threat, but I just don't think I don't think he quite has the chops.
He doesn't get off the line like that. Like the sudden quickness is not the same as top speed quickness. I mean, he's fast, but he's not 4.20 fast.
Yeah, I agree.
He's gonna run high 4.2s, low 4.3s. You know, there's a big thing about you got to remember that these guys are going through all kinds of shit at the combine. You know, with interviews and all the other stuff, the stress, etc. It's unlikely that guys are going to run at their peak, you know, all the time. You know, Jalen Waddle is a perfect example of not running nearly as fast at the combine as he is. Yeah. Yeah. Just because, I mean, it's just there's so many factors that are involved. You don't get the maximum performance out of most guys.
You know what? Since we're doing questions, let's bang out our Patreon questions too while we're at it here. So,
we had so in our Patreon, we just pitched it out. Hey, we got Dallas.
And we have and join a Patreon. That's like a community that we have where we, you know, we're all Dynasty Minds and we contribute the wealth of information we've accumulated over time, and
we like to bullshit about fantasy football.
Translation, yes, a bunch of bullshit.
That's the translation.
But check it out if you want to join our Patreon. It's pretty cheap. You can do it for $1.
Chip in on the Lakers Dallas Mavericks chat though the other night. I was like, somebody, nobody was around. Like it was, you know, of course it happened like 12:30. I couldn't get anybody to chat. I was like, this is crazy. This is fucking insane. All you guys want to do is talk about football.
Oh, and how about the jersey is out?
You got it mailed. No way.
Well, I mean, I don't know how long it's going to take because it's my Chinese connection. One of our patrons won a Saquon Barkley jersey. Saquon Barkley jersey.
Hopefully you'll get it before the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So we do some giveaways and we'll give out some jerseys. We'll do another jersey giveaway.
All right. So Kyle asked in the chat, how does a Devy person use their knowledge to help with second-year players that didn't hit? His example is Roman Wilson. So if you like a Devy prospect, do you hold longer, or do you once they're in the league, do you kind of push aside the Devy aspect and what you might have mentally invested in them before the draft, before they played?
So this is a good question. It really is a good one. My process, I do the best that I possibly can to separate my sides of Devy versus NFL rostership a year out from the NFL draft. from when I'm expecting them to do it, because I don't want my investment in college production stats to affect what is now transpired in the NFL. So I try to separate that as much as possible, even before they enter the league. Once they're in the league, I give my players 2 years. That's like what my cutoff is for pretty much every position. You'll see enough to where you'll be able to tell if it's going to happen or not going to happen. Like Derrick Henry, after 2 years, stats wise, says it wasn't going to happen. You could see that happening.
He was terrible.
It did not happen yet. Like that's the type of thing that you really have to stick on to. Same thing like Cooper Kupp, the 700 years as a rookie. You knew it was coming that second year. Same type of thing. Roman Wilson, fun little question, because I wasn't a Roman Wilson guy last year. Wasn't really in on him. He came in. Yes, he was injured. But when he came back from the injury, still didn't get on the field when that team was just trying to scrape by for some reason. Right. A little bit suspect.
Calvin Austin was like,
Yeah, and that's another prime example, though. Calvin Austin, for some reason, was relevant as a boom-bust player in your flex all season because he just started getting funneled targets at the tail end, and he was left for dead by pretty much everyone that ever invested anything in him. 3 years ago? I think that was the 2021, 2022 draft, something like that. Yeah. So, yeah, it's hard to do, but I will say Wilson was not promising, but I always give my players 2 years. So ask me again in 2026.
So you don't worry about some of these thresholds, like 500, 600 yards, et cetera, for a receiver. You're willing to just chalk it up as we've got time. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah, the thresholds are fine for overarching standards at a position. Over a long historical data period, it makes sense to follow the thresholds if you take 100 different leagues, if you're in a ton of them. But with me only being in 10 leagues, right, I play pretty consistently across the leagues. I think consistently. My roster construction is a little bit different just due to variance, but when I'm looking at stuff like that, I would rather lean into the context of the situation than these benchmarks. Like Roman Wilson had the context of me understanding he was injured for 65, 70% of this year. So the stats aren't going to be there, anything like that. He's coming back. He was injured. Even if he was on the field, he may not have done anything. Next year, completely healthy. If I drafted him in the second round, which I would have had to burn a second round pick last year on him, there's no way I'm just trading him away for a third or a fourth right now. I have to wait it out 1 year, because next year, if there is someone that's sniffing around, if I say, I'll take your contender's third for him, that's basically what I would have been giving him away for this year anyway. So there's no real point in moving him this year. It varies by position. I think quarterback is one of those things that I'm the most quick to hop on or off of a player when I see stuff, just because when you start to see it, like Penix, the second he stepped on the field, you could see it. You're like, all right, you got to get in on this before it goes away type of situation. And so there's certain situations like that as well. Like Daniel Jones was not like that. Like his rookie season was okay, but you could see just massive issues with that New York offense, that quarterback position. And so I was never one to invest heavily in that. But it's all about context of what the team's around it, and especially knowing the salary cap, the free agency that's upcoming for the team makes a ton of difference, because a rookie for Tennessee may have looked really good last year, but that team is going to look completely different this upcoming year with the talent that they're going to bring in. So it's just very interesting, and it's something that kind of keeps you on your toes. But to answer your question, I'm much more of a context than a numbers variance guy.
Larry and I we both play in somewhere around 10-ish leagues. We talked about the other day. I don't remember exactly what our numbers were, but it's somewhere around there. We don't play the portfolio game. We have our favorite players. We tend to gravitate toward those guys. We plant flags, et cetera, just because I think it's more fun that way. Yeah. And there's no wrong or right way to play Dynasty. It's just what we enjoy is certainly the let's plant our flag. This is the guys we like kind of thing. Makes it when you hit it really is a lot of fun.
Fun. Right, I don't have this guy in this league, so I'm gonna grab him here. That sort of thing.
I get that. Yeah, no, it's super. Like my biggest guy from the 2022 class was Khalil Shakir. I was pounding the table. Larry, you've been around for a while, just pounding the table. Everyone's like, "Shut up! He's not that good." Took 2 years, but boy, did he hit this year. So it's like super gratifying when you hit on those late guys that you're like, no, there's something coming with this guy. I can feel it. So I totally get that.
So I guess all right. So let's talk about like a player like Shakir, where how much do you value the value that you got? So you took him in the 4th round or whatever, late 3rd, early 4th, and he hits to the tune of a low end wide receiver 3, high end wide receiver 4. That makes you feel confident in him going forward that he can keep going, or are you just content with that being his ceiling?
So I'm content with that because I was never expecting him to be higher than a flex play. I just wanted someone that you could consistently put in and be confident in. And the reason I feel confident in is because he solidified himself as the target slot receiver on the best offense in the league, arguably, outside of Detroit, what was Detroit before it was torn down. But
they're definitely in the first tier.
Yeah, in the first tier of offenses, they don't have a tried and true wide receiver 1. Their tight end 1, who was supposed to be the target hog, never became the target hog.
Yeah.
And when you have like legitimately a top 5 all-time statistical PFF season when it comes to target receptions, I was talking about this before. He broke NFL history with the longest successive target to catch rate in the NFL. He went like 47 for 48. Of his first targets were catches. It had never happened before in the NFL. He was a monster underneath. And yeah, it may not accrue to crazy totals, but 1,000 yards and 6 from a slot receiver is what we were getting from Jamison Crowder. And Jamison Crowder was a guy that you could rely on every single week. That's what I feel like when I'm with Shakir. And when I spent a 4th on that, that's what's nice to play. Because when you're hitting those 4ths, yeah, it's really cool to hit a Lamar Miller occasionally, or to come in and hit Kyron because everyone was sleeping on him, that type of aspect. But like, if that happens once every 7 to 10 years, that's not something that happens every year. So you're just looking for consistent plug and play guys so that you're not just wasting your time looking at these players and picking random dudes every time. So
you mentioned the Buffalo Bills tight end situation and the fact that everyone expected Kincaid to explode. I think there's another time for me to just stress that please continue to look at player trends and target trends across these teams, because the Bills have never targeted tight ends.
Nope.
And expecting that kind of leap from it's the same thing with tight ends with Aaron Rodgers. Doesn't happen. Yep. Like, you've got to be able to look at player trends. You got to be able to look at team trends and see how they're going to use players, because coaches are rigid, man. They like what they like. And a lot of times coaches are not willing to try. Outside of a few out there, McVay, Kyle Shanahan, they are not willing to try and use players in unorthodox ways. They want what they want, and that's how they play the game. So
yeah, couldn't agree more. Especially specifically tight end. It's so much more important at that position than any of the other ones when it comes to target distribution. And specifically, I say target distribution like inside the 20s, because touchdown regression is whatever. You're always going to have those. And so, like, on the flip side of what you said with Aaron Rodgers, you can never rely on one week to week, because he would cycle through 3 different tight ends and 2 of them would catch a touchdown. You would always start the one that didn't catch the touchdown, but they would have 15 yards and a touchdown. That's like what you could hope. And so it's an infuriating roulette game. But like, for me, you look at a team on the flip side with Cleveland and Stefanski, he loves the tight end position. And that's what's so infuriating about Njoku always being injured, is because if he could just put together 17 games without missing games, he would be pushing for the tight end one. We've seen it.
He'd have an all-time season.
Just to note, Cleveland was 4th in the league this year with 166 tight end targets. That is a ton.
Well, following those trends is so important, because like the guy that sticks out the most in my head from the running back position over the last probably 5 to 6 years that people were just trying to fight this trend for some reason. As soon as James Conner made the move from Pittsburgh to Arizona, I was 1,000% more in, even than I already was with what I had seen in Pittsburgh, because the last 3 head coaches, Arizona has been top 3 in rush attempts, red zone rush attempts, and red zone touchdowns at the running back position before James Conner got there. They've done the exact same thing, regardless of who the head coach is. It doesn't matter. It's just how the system works with Kyler Murray, and people were fighting this. They continue to fight it, but the trends just matter so much.
Where you at, Trey? How about Trey Benson? You got any love for him or no?
Yeah, Trey Benson's good. I mean, I think you're going to have to peel James Conner off of that field with a scalpel if you want him off of it. But he's just still so consistent. And he somehow, like, he's never been a speed guy, but he somehow got like a little bit more pip in his step over the last like 18 months after coming back from that last shoulder injury that he had. I don't know if he slimmed down a little bit, but his pass catching still there. He still makes really, really good decisions as a running back. So I think Benson is there as a change of pace back unless he goes down for the year.
So he doesn't have a chance to be the guy in the backfield for them.
He does, but it would have to be like a big injury. That's the only thing with him. Like if Connor goes down in the first quarter of the season this coming year, knock on wood, it doesn't happen, and then Benson goes off this year, easily takes the job. He has the talent to do it. He just proved that he can't steal the reps from Connor. That team is so loyal to that man in the running back position. Like when he's healthy, he gets 20 plus carries every single time.
Right. Well, one thing we've learned about Arizona is they do like to just give one guy carries. They're kind of like Pittsburgh in that manner. Like, they feed a player. I mean, they've had players come through when Connor's been down. It's like, all right, let's give them 18 carries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we were. It kind of pivots into the running backs. It's such a deep running back class. I mean, Jamie has one question about Ollie Gordon. I loved him. He had a nice Senior Bowl too. Where you at on this? Just where you at in the running back class? Can you speak on them at all?
Yeah, I mean, super deep. Like I said, I think 6 of these guys are probably going to be first round rookie draft picks, and I think you're probably going to see. I mean, the thing that sucks about it is that this is probably the one year where you can't listen to the draft capital is everything argument for running backs because you're going to be able to get a starting running back in the 5th and 6th round in this year's draft class. Like if you really need a guy, like for my Bears, like we have Swift, but if we don't want to take anyone until like the 5th or 6th and we end up getting a Damian Martinez out of Miami, like immediately could come in and compete for that RB1 role with the Bears. Like it's just something that's super simple with this year's class. There's probably 9 to 10 guys that probably are ranked on a lot of people's boards inside the top 100 when it comes time to draft time. And there's no way that 10 go in the top 100 because that's just not how the actual NFL draft goes. So you're going to see just a lot of value fall down. I mean, it's
and I asked that to pivot off of the Trey Benson thing because you don't even know. I mean, the Cardinals could draft another running back. You know, you're not. I mean, there's so many running backs. Each team has a shot at a legit running back over the course of this draft. If there's a 10 of them, I mean, that's like almost a third of the league right there. That could get like a solid running back if they draft one. So. They'll be going late because of just that reason, and then a handful of teams that have their running back room all situated don't have to worry about it. So, man,
he's asking a good question here. If you're a rebuild team with a couple of first-round picks, and given that this is a heavy running back class, is it worth taking running backs in this draft or trade the pick for proven wide receiver or tight end?
So I have a tendency to not trade for wide receivers, if I'm being completely honest. That's just how I decide to play the game. I like to draft wide receivers and quarterbacks, trade for running backs and tight ends because it's worth it to trade for those positions, in my opinion. Typically, you hit a little bit more value in that aspect. I would say if you're in the first year of your rebuild and you're an absolute dumpster fire with no shot of building a middle of the road team this year, then maybe trading some of your first round picks is worth it. I don't know that I would trade off all of them just again, because I think that this year's class is primed to replace that 2018 class of Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon. They're all aging out of the league. James Conner, everyone, Kareem Hunt, like all these relevant backs that are getting you fantasy points right now, maybe have at max 2 years apiece, and all of them will not hit that 2-year cap. Right. So it's just something to consider, especially because next year's class, I don't like as much at running back. It's a much better quarterback and wide receiver class. So if you need running backs, it's smart to get them while you can. And if you have the picks where you're this deep in the first round and say we get Ashton Genty, Dylan Sampson, Omarion Hampton, and both the Ohio State guys all go in the first 2 rounds. 5 backs in the first 2 rounds. All of those guys are worth first-round picks.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think that's crazy at all, though. I
It's
think you
not.
might even see a couple more.
That's old school. That's
yeah,
old
the
school.
second
Right
round is always the running back graveyard. It always happens. That's where Trey Benson went. That's where Breece Hall went. That's where Kenneth Walker went. All of these guys always go at the beginning of the second round, and it would be very easy to see a run of 3 or even 4 go.
Right. Jonathan
Yeah,
Taylor
maybe.
was a second-round pick.
Yep.
They all went high. Yeah. Javonte Williams, which
Yep.
they traded up for him.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but okay, man, we're just going around the world. Let's hit on the QBs.
Yeah.
Is there
We all played Superflex, so let's talk about how we're either going to be really disappointed or we're going to get a lot of value. Go.
Yeah, it's not looking sexy, is what I would say. The way you phrased it in your question, is there a clear-cut top 3? I have a clear-cut top 2. It's Jackson Dart and Cam Ward for me. I'm not a Shedeur guy.
in that order, or
I do indeed have Dart as my QB1 in this class.
nice. I love him for the Jets, man, but I don't know. It's funny because the Denver GM is the new GM or the assistant. He was associated with. He was involved with the Knicks pick. Is my point. Whereas everyone had Knicks as a second-round pick, and he made that pick at 12 or something. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that he takes Jackson Dart at 7. Do you think he'll last till 7 at this point with the way he's been rising? Because he had a great Senior Bowl.
I think he probably makes it to 7 just due to the fact that there's a weird perception of quarterback in this class.
Right.
I think the league has been kind of pumping that out for a while, how they're not going to be reaching for him. I think Dion will make it so that Shedeur goes number 2. Realistically, Dart will probably be the 3rd quarterback off the board. But when it comes to it, I feel exactly like I did about Justin Herbert with how I do about Dart. And if you look at their actual physical makeup, their profile, their skill set, Dart's ability to, in my opinion, he has the prettiest deep ball. He doesn't have the strongest cannon of an arm, but when it comes to his touch passing down the field, he's the best in the class. He's better than Shedeur. He's better than Ward. His physicality, he's like a power rusher, so he's not going to be running all over the field like Milroe would be, but he's got that Herbert style-esque, that Mahomes style-esque, where he'll barrel into you. He's just not 250 pounds. He's 235 or 37, whatever he measured in at. He's got the inconsistencies that for some reason, weird intermediate inconsistency and accuracy, which is exactly what Herbert had coming out. He's just being slept on a little bit, and I don't get it because I like watching Cam Ward, but Cam Ward is like subtly contained chaos is how I would describe Cam Ward. He reminds me of Ryan Tannehill, to where it's fun, it's electric. You see these pop plays, this athleticism. He can make these crazy touch throws for some reason, and he always likes to keep the play alive, but it feels really out of structure when he's making it stay alive. And so I call it a little bit of PTSD from the Caleb Williams experience in year 1, but I am a little bit shy and trigger shy of that type of quarterback, especially if it's one going very early on that is going to be starting from the get-go.
Man, Dallas, I don't think you should be so down on Caleb Williams, man.
Oh, I'm not. I'm a big Caleb guy. I'm just saying.
Okay.
It's hard to stomach that as a fan. It is because I was sitting there all year screaming at the TV, throw the ball away.
I mean,
throw the ball away.
Can you imagine?
As far as rookies go, I think he had a solid enough season. Rookie. He didn't just shit the bed.
Didn't they cut the coach in the middle of the season?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Literally, he had the second best passing season of a Chicago Bears quarterback in Chicago Bears history. He almost broke 4,000 yards passing.
Right.
Like he almost fell into it, even though he was playing on an awful offense. Like,
no, I'll say the same thing to you that I say to Larry. That's a low bar, okay?
yeah,
Because Larry's talking about Aaron Rodgers having like a top 3 season for the Jets all time. It's like
Right.
it's a pretty low bar considering those.
That's the first thing I thought of when he said that, Justin, was fucking Rodgers.
Yeah, I knew kind of where that head might go. Yeah.
Right.
No,
So, do you like Rome Odunze? Since
I
we're
love
talking about
Rome
the Bears?
Odunze. Yeah, Rome needs to be playing the role that Keenan Allen was playing last year, and Keenan Allen will now be gone. And so you have, in my opinion, the best offensive mind in the league currently right now, and Ben Johnson coming in, who knows how to use his personnel better than anyone else currently. So hopefully he becomes the power slot that he's supposed to be. That would then free up DJ Moore to actually be on the outside, and then we just need some kind of speedster. So there you go. We'll take Arian Smith. We could throw him on the outside opposite of DJ Moore, and we'll call it good.
Where's Rome Odunze in this rookie draft?
Oh, he's 101. I have him higher than Tet.
Wow.
Because I have Tet and Burden would be coming in for me right behind Rome, Neighbors, and MHJ from last year.
Nice.
How are you feeling about Ibuka?
Igbuka is like a old school wide receiver. If that makes sense. Like if there's going to be a stealer in this draft class, I think Igbuka is the stealer. If that makes sense. Like for me, so he was used on deep plays on the outside, and those are the highlight plays that a lot of people like to point to, where they're like, "Oh man, this could be such an explosive aspect for an offense." But so I'm from Youngstown, Ohio, just to skip away from Columbus. So my entire family is Ohio State fans. Out of all the wide receivers that I've watched over the last 5 to 6 years that have gotten this type of hype, I think he's the worst. So like he's not sniffing Garrett Wilson, he's not sniffing Olave, he's not sniffing JSN as prospects coming out.
So I should trade him then. Should I trade him? I have him already in the Devy League.
Yeah, I mean, if you have him in a Devy and someone's really in on it, I don't think it's going to hurt you. My player comp for what he probably should be used at the next level is a Khalil Shakir. So I was talking to Jesse in the Patreon group chat for the DWZ network that you're in, and he asked me what I thought about Igbuka earlier. Even before today's news about Cooper Kupp, I said his best landing spot is the Rams to replace Cooper Kupp. He would be the perfect complement to a Puka Nacua to play that underneath gadget role chain mover. That's what you would need. And so that's the type of dynamism that I think he uses, because I don't think he is the athlete that some people think he is.
One more Bears question. Roshan, holy moly. What the hell happened to him, man? Right?
He's not that good. Roshan was like no, seriously, like Roshan was like RB, like, I don't know, 13, I think, in that class for me. I can pull it up if you guys are curious. I was not a big Roshan guy. That was a projection pick that everyone's like, oh, Bijan, look. It was the narrative all season, that entire offseason. If Bijan wasn't here, Roshan would have been the 101 at the running back position. People were literally saying that, and people had him as like RB3, RB4 in the class. He ended up going in the 4th round. It's not like it was anything crazy. And when he was out there, he looked bad. He didn't really know what he was doing when it came to rushing lanes. Yeah. His athletic talent helped on some of the stretch runs that we did the outside, but he was picking the wrong holes up the middle. Shut your mouth, dude. Roshan to college. Yeah, dude, that's a Texas thing, Jamie. That's not a Roshan thing. But yeah, I'm not a big Roshan guy. I really wish, I mean, obviously hindsight's 2020. If they had just spent the extra $2 million a year to sign Saquon, that would have been pretty dope last year. But I don't know what they're going to do at running back. I think that they need to add one. And I think if they're going to add one, it's going to be a speed complement to go with Swift.
They're going to get a nice one in the draft. You know, they're going to get a nice RB.
Yeah. Well, if I had to pick one that would make a lot of sense, it would be Travion.
I was just about to say Travion Henderson.
He could break it. If you want
he looks like a bear to me. I could see him. I could see him as a bear. I could just see Travion Henderson as a bear.
The Bears are in a position where they can now spend a little bit of draft capital on a wide receiver. I mean, on a running back. They've got some cap space, so they're going to be able to acquire pieces elsewhere in the outside the draft. Yeah, there's no better place to get a cheap running back.
And that's the thing is, like, we're 5th in cap space this year as well, and so you're sitting there and you're like, okay. like it's a pipe dream, obviously, with Genty, but like if they were to secure, say they're the team that trades for Myles Garrett to go opposite of Sweat.
Sure. Right.
Like say that's what happens. Say they trade a future first and both seconds this year, whatever you want to call it. They end up getting that, and then they sign Trey Smith from Kansas City. They shore up their offensive line. They shore up their defensive line. What's stopping them from taking Genty in the first?
Man.
With Ben Johnson, we literally watched him do it with Gibbs last year.
I am scared that with all this Genty hype, and I'm going to take him in a league because I have the 101, and it's a crazy scoring for running backs and tight ends. But I'm scared that he's going to be a much better NFL running back than he is going to be a fantasy running back because the passing profile isn't there.
Yeah.
And I'm terrified that he's only going to get like 30 targets a game. And we're hoping that he's Derrick Henry 2.0 as far as the ground production. Obviously, he's not the same kind of runner. But, I mean, like, we're not going to see 30 touches a game from him in the NFL. So I'm wondering if it's going to.
No, I will say he did have nearly 600 receiving yards last year. So, like, 2024 was a down year because he almost ran the ball 400 times.
Right.
So, but I get what you're saying. There's some better pass catchers in this year's class specifically than him. So I could definitely see it. It's just, dude, he's so good.
No, like I said, I've got the 101, the 103, the 104 in that league. I'm taking him at 101. I'll deal with the rest later. And I have a couple quarterbacks. It's not like I'm in dire need of quarterback.
Yep.
I'm just going to take Genty at the 101 and then figure out the 3 and 4. I have 3, 4, 12, and 201. So I have, 5 of the top because there's actually a compensatory pick. So 5 of the top 14 picks.
Yeah, I mean, if you got 3, 4, 12, you can get Genty. It's super flex, right?
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
yeah.
You could walk away with Genty, Warren, Burden, and then another running back at 12.
And see, I have not looked to see if the 102 needs a quarterback.
Yeah.
Because I might end up with.
Well, I just assumed that he took Tet there because.
And see, that's what I'm hoping is he doesn't. I'm hoping he takes Cam Ward or something. And I mean, I will probably take value and just take. I'll probably go like Genty, and then if Tet goes, then I'll go Ward and Warren.
Yeah,
because it's also a start 2 tight end with a heavy premium. So Warren is coming off, and really.
And if you don't really need quarterback, you could go even crazier. You could go 3, 4 back to back. Like if Loveland and Warren both go in the first, you could take them both.
Right. Yeah. So we're gonna see how this goes.
You love that flexibility.
Yeah,
Man,
and then
get
just
those
Cam
picks,
running
baby.
back later.
Flexibility with the picks.
I think we're going to find ourselves hammering running back in the late first and through the second round of these rookie drafts. That's what we're just going to – it's going to be by default just because the wide receiver class is shallow as far as talent goes. I like the top of the class. I like Ted personally, and I like a big Buka, okay. I'm wondering if Burden hit a wall or if that was just because Mizzou was terrible.
That offense, I don't know how much Missouri you watched this year. It was awful.
I'm a Georgia fan. Watch a bunch of SEC football, only to root against everyone else in the SEC. It's great because screw everybody else in the SEC. I'm not going to be that guy ever. So it was lovely to watch, and I did. I was like, Mizzou offense was terrible. It was just trash.
Yeah. It was not good. Yeah. Are you naturally, were you just saying that as an overarching theme where he doesn't have the pass catching upside for Genty, or do you normally gravitate specifically towards passing backs for fantasy?
Oh, I generally gravitate toward guys that will get 70 or 80 targets. I like to see that.
Yeah. You'll probably want to be drafting Devin Neal this year then, because I think he's the sneakiest pass catcher in this year's class when it comes to a guy that could very easily get like a Travis Etienne, like random 70 reception season.
Yeah. Is he a guy that's also going to get 175, 200 carries? Because I don't want that's the other thing. I'm not on the extreme where I'm like, oh, let me get the pass catching guy who sees the only third downs.
Yeah, he came in right at 5'11", 221 pounds. So he's a big-bodied guy, but they didn't use him a ton in the screen game at Kansas. But when they did, insane. Like he is a just bottle rocket ready to pop off. He's where do I have him? He's RB6 for me in this year's class. I actually have him over Caleb Johnson.
Oh yeah, wow.
Yep.
What's so you mentioned your first tier of QB with Dart and Ward.
Mm-hmm.
Who's in your second tier?
That's just Shadur. He's by himself. It's Memphis's fun phrase that he likes to do, and it was actually from the NFL podcast. Trying to think of what that used to be called. But they used to call it the Andy Dalton corollary. So there's always a quarterback that I comp to Andy Dalton that fits like the exact mold of what he does, where it's like I'm fine with him as a starter, but I don't like it. That's how I feel about Shadur. And so then everyone after him is just a complete upside play. He stands alone by himself, and he's slightly better when it comes to accuracy than the two guys that I have behind him. But I have more question marks specifically because he takes easily the most sacks in this year's class that are unnecessary, even with how bad his line was this year. He was doing what Caleb was doing for the Bears. He just was eating sacks because he was waiting for those big chunk plays downfield that just didn't matriculate every play.
Yeah.
Now, where are these guys? How do these three quarterbacks? How do they stand up to last year's class? Because we got a lot of quarterbacks out of last year's class. Where would they? How do these three guys fit into those? What was there? Like we had like 5 of them, right?
Yeah, I would have Dart at 5, Ward at 6, Nix at 7, JJ McCarthy at 8, and Shadur at 9.
Yeah. Interesting.
So they were definitely a stronger. I mean, we all know it, but the quarterback class as prospects was way stronger last year.
Yeah, and I
Right.
was not a big JJ guy. I'm still not a big JJ guy, and this is based off of exclusively them coming out as prospects. Like Nix obviously would probably be higher just based off of what we saw, the progression towards the end of the season, even if it was all Peyton scheming him up. Plot twist, he's there for the next 4 years. So, like, that doesn't matter. He would definitely be higher, but yeah, that's kind of where it's broken down for me. Now, I will say all 9 of these players probably are starters for the next 4 years.
Yeah, see, I actually like Shadur Sanders as a NFL prospect. I don't think that he has the fantasy upside. Obviously, no leg, like he just doesn't run. You know, for being from such an athletic family, that dude does not want to run at all. He wants to stand in the pocket, and he'll take the sacks just because he's not going to leave the pocket. But he throws well under pressure, considering he was always under pressure.
Constantly.
So, I mean, to me, that translates well to the NFL as far as actual NFL quarterback play. Do you think that Jackson Dart has that same upside passing, or is he always trying to get out of the pocket? Because that's what it felt like to me.
So he will scramble if it's not there, and that was partially due to not a lot of targets on his team. He had Prescorn, at tight end, and he had Trey Harris. So Trey Harris does one thing. He runs very fast, deep outside, and he knows within about 2 seconds whether or not he's going to win that route or not on the outside. And so then he would look to Prescorn. If Prescorn wasn't open, he would run. And so that's really the progression of what that offense went. You can say it was a little bit jumpy of the gun to go out, which can be coached out. I would agree that it was a little jumpy, but it led to 4,500 passing yards, under 10 interceptions, and over 30 touchdowns this year. Yeah. So it worked for him pretty well in a very loaded SEC when it comes to the upper echelon of things. They knocked off Bama. Like they did some fun stuff this year.
Knocked off Georgia too.
Yeah, knocked off Georgia. It was a fun class, and I will say he has the athleticism to do that. Like he can get away. It's not just college athleticism. Like he's probably going to run in the high 4.5s, if I had to guess, somewhere in that range, and he's right around 240. So you're looking at a dude that can scoot at that size.
So how many QBs in the first round? Like you're talking, there's to be 3, obviously. Are there any other guys that are going to sneak into the first round of the NFL draft?
I just have, as of right now, I have it as 3. I have it as Dart. Why am I blanking? Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders. Yeah. The only way that a 4th one sneaks in is if someone tries to play the Lamar Jackson game on the back end of the first round, I think.
Yeah.
Just because it is being undersold, I think. Like, people are mentioning it, but Milroe is a freak athlete. Like, he is going to run like crazy, and he's definitely got that shifty running style that Lamar had. He's not the Anthony Richardson, like, big-bodied power type of runner. So it's going to be alluring. There's probably a team that, say the 3 go early and one of the guys in that 10 range that needs a eventual replacement, say New Orleans for Derek Carr, is willing to trade their second, move up a little bit, and get potentially their guy of the future who could sit behind Carr, who they can't get out of financially this year without taking on a bunch of dead money, to then come in and be the starter next year once they build around him in offseason. Like, that's a team that would make sense for me to trade up into the first to get a guy like Milroe.
Do you think Ewers can do anything at the combine to move into that late first?
No, it's all decision making for Ewers. He may interview well. If he can show that he can read the board really well and write up plays and understand offenses, it might help him a little bit. I mean, from watching the SEC as much as you did, it was so inconsistent. He would go from looking like the best quarterback in college football to the worst quarterback in college football in the same game.
I was going to say in different halves. You could look at him in the first half and the second half of a game. And
you would just see it, and the writing was on the wall. He didn't have the option to go back this year. Like, that wasn't an option. Arch was taking the team over next year, so he was gone. So I don't think so. For my current tiers where I have him, Milroe, and then Donovan Smith from Houston are all in my last tier at quarterback.
Oh, wow.
I only ranked 8.
Not McCord. Sorry, Steady Eddie.
No, yeah, I saw that on there. That was a system thing. It really was. McCord's solid, but I think he's just a very solid college quarterback. Like, he's got some tools to him, but we saw it 1 year at Syracuse, and against the good teams, he looked bad. So it's the only thing with that. He is interesting, but yeah, no, Donovan Smith just has so much more upside than McCord for me. That's why I have him ranked where I do.
Yeah, baby. I don't know, man. So if you have like the first 3 picks in a rookie draft, what direction are you going?
I mean, that one's pretty cut and dry.
Super flex.
Yeah, super flex, tight end premium. It doesn't matter. I'm still comfortable going Genty, Tet, Burden as of right now, knowing what I know.
Wow, nice.
So that's knowing what I know. So the landing spots for the quarterback, I think, matter, because I think you can get the wrong one at the wrong place in this year's draft pretty easily. For me, Ward could succeed probably anywhere out of anyone, just because he plays so out of structure that he can kind of make up for some of the deficiencies and stuff like that of the team. I think the best scenario for him would actually be the Giants. I don't know if he makes it to the Giants or not. But that's what I would do. Yeah, I think the perfect scenario, it's never going to happen, unfortunately, would be Dart to Tennessee, specifically with the concept of T. Higgins coming in, because then you would have T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, Dart, and then the 2 running backs with speed in that offense. But that's what I would have as of right now. If Cam, really, wherever Cam goes, he's probably going to move up to number 2, just because in Superflex, the hype's going to get too crazy to where if I can't move off the pick, I'll be able to sell him for at least that type of scenario. And so that's realistically the top 3.
Nice.
Jamie wants to know if there's any scenario where Burden jumps Tet.
I mean, I'll be real with you. I like Burden more than Tet, but I'm also a sucker for route runners. And I just think that Mizzou's offense was so bad that you couldn't tell. Like, it was very reminiscent of Jordan Addison when he moved from Pittsburgh to USC with Caleb. Like, you could still see the flashes, but that offense was in shambles the 1 year that they were linking up. It just never worked out. He had a really down year. We had the same conversation with Addison. Wow, is he worth it? Is he good? We're now seeing it. He's not even the alpha on the team behind Jefferson. He's still absolutely taking over games late on in the season. Burden reminds me a lot of Jerry Jeudy coming out. He's got every aspect of the game that you want from a wide receiver. It's just whether or not that'll translate to the next level, which is the question I have from every prospect that comes in. So it's easy. Me and Jamie, we seem to be in lockstep with a lot of our things here.
Yeah. So I don't know. I forgot what my question was going to be. What the second round? So we got kind of covered the first round of rookie drafts.
Mhm.
How's that second round look? I mean, are we deep this year, or is it kind of just a well run dry?
No, it's going to be pretty deep again. Like I said, I think that run of running backs is going to stretch into the second round pretty heavily, and then you're really going to start hammering in those big names for the Senior Bowl that everyone's like falling in love with. Like, there's probably going to be a good chunk of these wide receivers that go in the second round, just like the running backs do in the actual NFL draft, which then in turn makes them second round picks for the fantasy rookie drafts. So, I mean, just looking at it, like I said, like, we'll call it 5 running backs in the first round, 2 tight ends in the first round. We'll say that all 3 of the quarterbacks go in the first round. And so then in that situation, you're sitting at 10. You'd be looking at 3 wide receivers. So that already takes you to 13. So then that's just when you get out of the top 2 or 3 at every position outside of running back. Right. So then you would then start working your way into, for me, like, or for most people, like Quinshon Judkins, Devin Neal, RJ Harvey, Kyle Monungai, Cam Scatabo at the running back position. You would start looking at the Egbukas, Jack Besh, Savion Williams, Io Minor out of Stanford, a lot of these wide receivers, like Restrepo, all of these guys that you would normally be taking in that, like, I like to call it the Josh Downs range. Like, you really hammer down like one guy that you really like, and you're going to draft him in every one of your drafts in that range. That's what I did with Josh Downs that year. That's typically what everyone likes to do at that tail end of the second round, where they just sniff out, move up a little bit if you need to, just to secure that one guy that you like out of the pack the most. But I think it's nice and deep.
Jamie said the second round this should be better than the second round last year. More talented than like A.D. Mitchell, Pearsall, etc.
So I would say A.D. Mitchell, yes. I will say Pearsall gained a lot of value at the end of the year.
I feel like exactly the same thing.
Yeah, he gained a lot of value. And it's funny because I was trying to move him in multiple leagues, and everyone was like, I don't want him. I want to see what he does. And then he had like those 2 terrible weeks back to back, and then the guy told me to kick rocks. The trade deadline hit, and then he goes off for like over 100 yards, like 3 out of the last 4 games. And I was like, probably should have made that trade, huh? Like, just trying to move him. But
I think there's also the fact that we're looking at all these running backs is, okay, they're all these guys are going to get chances at a starting job, and that's just not realistic.
No.
So we're going to see some regression in the talent, in the prospect of the second round at some point, where we see the Marshawn Lloyds stuck behind, Josh Jacobs, or Trey Benson stuck behind James Conner. Like, those guys are going to drop a little bit simply because they're not going to get the same. Running back is about opportunity, obviously. For us in fantasy, it's about opportunity. And if they're not drafted to a team that needs running back, and there's less of those now than I feel like there has been. Like, we all considered Dallas last year a place that needed running back, and then Rico Dowdle has a great season. There's just not that many spots right now. Until these old guys just freaking die. Don't do it yet, guys. I got you on a bunch of my rosters. But until they die, we're just stuck kind of waiting for these second round, third round running backs to hit. It's all injury based at this point, just taking shots. Just, instead of being a sniper, you're just taking shotgun and just spray and pray.
Yeah. At the same time, though, there's always probably 4 or 5 teams in the league where you have those ambiguous backfields, the fun phrase that everyone likes to throw around, where you end up with a Tyrone Tracy who takes a backfield last year, a Chase Brown who takes a backfield last year. Yeah. And so these guys that you're getting in the second and third round that take over. A-Chain wasn't even going that high, even when he went to Miami, because there was people in front of him. They were just re-signed Mostert, got Jalen Wright, that whole thing. So it's interesting to see how it transpires, but also back to what we started this conversation with, the tight end position. I didn't even mention the other guys, where if they're going on day 2 in tight end premium, they're going to be in the second round all over the place too. So
yeah. It's very deep. I like it. Give it to me nice and deep.
He loves to hear the tight end is deep. Yep.
Hey, love it, man. Love it, dude. So, man, damn, this was just, I feel like such a sponge learning all. That's just gets my juices flowing, man. How you feeling, Justin? You got to Got to put that tablecloth in the wash machine after this show.
I'm just gonna fold it up so that it doesn't, maybe just doesn't get on anybody else.
I don't know, but tell us everything you got going on, man. We got to spread the word, man, because we loved having you on the show tonight for sure.
Yeah. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'm part of the Dynasty Warzone network. You can catch me on the rookie rundowns. I have not yet started to drop the episodes, but I have recorded episodes on prospect individual profiles as well as my general tiers as of right now. On the rookie rundown, it's usually just me. Occasionally I'll pop in with guests. We'll do guest stars back and forth, but it's usually pretty stats heavy. I like to give you exactly the type of player that you're getting. My entire process is predicated on comparing like players to like players. I'm not going to compare an Omarion Hampton to a Devin A-Chain because it does absolutely nothing. You're never going to have them do the same roles in the NFL. So if you're looking for a scat back, here are my rankings. If you're looking for a thumper, here are my rankings and why. Yeah. So just be on the lookout for that there. You can find me on Twitter. I post and pin things that are important. I always have like the My Guys segments. I just dropped a list of like 8 of my comps earlier today before the show dropped. But yeah, those will start dropping weekly here. When it gets to the draft time, my favorite thing that I do is the Oklahoma drill, where I do one-on-one comparisons of backs or wide receivers or tight ends, quarterbacks, now that they're actually on their teams. So those usually drop immediately following the NFL draft. So that's something to look forward to towards the tail end of April. But other than that, I'm just working. I get married in like 6 weeks, so I'm just busting my ass.
Wait. How are you doing rookie profiles getting ready to get married, dude?
Dude, this is what I do. She goes to bed early, so I'm just like pumping these out at night.
He's like, honey, just pick the flavor. It's fine. Whatever flower color, I'm fine. I'm busy right now.
Yeah, but been doing a lot of that, and then we're going to Japan for a month for our honeymoon, and unfortunately, it coincides exactly with the start of the NFL season is when we're leaving, and so I will be downgrading heavily the number of leagues that I am in this year. Wow. Just because I physically will not be able to check them. So
they've got internet in Japan, man. It's not a third world country. You're fine.
Yeah, I think I'll be unmarried real quick if I'm constantly checking fantasy football.
Does she already hate fucking fantasy football? Is she in any leagues or no?
No, she tried to do one, and then I was running the team by like week 6, so we didn't do year 2 on that couples league.
Lost interest real quick.
Nice, dude.
I've been trying to convince my wife to do it one more time. Just get back in it.
Oh, my God.
She keeps saying, maybe I'll play next year. Yeah, listen.
So fucking Zard was like the first guy that chimed in like before we even started.
Yeah, we can knock out his question real quick.
Yeah, so here's a quick one. Pat Mahomes, 106.
And a late 26 first.
And a late 20, and a playoff 26 first, a late 20. So Mahomes, 106, and a late 26 first, or Hurts and Saquon.
I'll assume that is super flex. Just we'll give it a little bump to tight end premium. If you're a contender, it's pretty easily the Hurts and Saquon side. If you're middle of the road, I think I'd lean the Mahomes side, just because that 106 is going to give you either the RB2 in this class, potentially the QB 1 or 2, or the wide receiver 2. So you're walking away with Burden. If it's not tight end premium, Warren, who potentially could be another coming of the great tight ends that come through the league, or you're going to end up with like a bruising running back who's getting 250 carries this year. So it's pretty hard to pass up. I
got the Mahomes side.
And see, I keep wanting Mahomes to bounce back. I'm a believer, but I'll take Hurts and Saquon.
Yeah.
Hurts right now is still an elite scoring quarterback.
Yep.
He's not the typical elite passing quarterback, but you don't have to be when you're scoring, 8, 10, 12 touchdowns on the ground.
So. Yeah, it's wild the hate that he's gotten by like the industry, where everyone's like, oh, what do you mean you have Hurts at QB3? I'm like, dude, have you not been like paying attention to the year-end standings? I was like, if you go against Hurts in the playoffs, it's a buzzsaw. It happens every year. It's 30 to 35 points, at least one of the rounds. Like,
nope. Hurts is the he might be like the most undervalued elite quarterback there is.
Yeah.
As far as fantasy goes, he is as elite as they get. You know, consistently top 3 or 4 every year.
Yeah, it's him and Lamar. They're the only two that can like do it to you to that extent consistently. Like it's pretty crazy.
Well, all right, man. What do you say, Justin? Got anything else for this guy?
No, I don't have anything for Dallas. Jamie, Jane Daniels as your QB3 is not too high. It's not too high at all. It's fine. No,
unless you have him over Lamar, because I'll fight you on that. That's a different conversation.
He's right in that range, though.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the Josh Allen is 101. Anybody arguing anything other than that, I don't have anything to say to you. You're wrong. All right, Josh Allen's 101 in Superflex. After that, there's like 3 or 4 quarterbacks that can all be in the discussion. So,
okay.
No, Dallas, thanks for coming on, man. That was
absolutely
really, really insightful stuff. And I mean, I like to use my phone a lot, and I got a little note of 2025 prospects from what we talked about, like, you know, just a few little notes there. So
good deal. Yeah, if you guys want lists of any kind or anything like that, I've got them constantly. I can shoot you over the tiers right now. You can start diving into some of the deeper prospects if you want to get ahead of the curve. So.
Oh yeah, baby, it's rookie fever time. Let's do it. Oh, check us out. It's guest season 2. Check us out every week now. We're gonna be rolling with the guests. Makes the show a little bit more special.
Thanks for listening to the Dynasty Hot Sauce Pod.
1, 2, 3, 4.